Hello everyone. Today we're going to be learning about how to build a carousel using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So if we come over here in this demo, you can see that I can click on each image and I can change it. So why are we learning this? Just because we want to get fundamental understanding of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the document object model, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to first start by showing you how we can build this platform. So I usually use Cursor AI as my text editor. For the purpose of this video, let me share my screen. Give me 1 minute. For the purpose of this video, I'll still be using Cursor AI, but I'm going to show you how I build it with it. So now let's talk about the document object model. So give me 1 minute. When I want to initialize a new file in HTML, I just click it and this initializes it for me. Now anytime I initialize a new file like this, what happens is that our web page creates the document object model, right? And so I have all these files here. Let's say that while building this, I want to have a CSS file. Okay, I want to have a CSS file. How am I going to do this? So I can create a link. And what that's going to do is I'm going to reference it. It's going to be my style sheet. It's going to be my style sheet, and then I'm going to be getting it from my styles.css. And by the way, this code is going to be on my GitHub, so you can go and look at it and review. Tell me if you learned anything in this video. You can put it in the chats. So this is going to be my styling page, which is going to be this. We'll style it as we go. So to get copyright-free images, I'm going to be using Cloudinary. So Cloudinary, they post very high quality images, and you can also upload your own images. Let's say that you want to build a website, you can definitely use Cloudinary. So now what I'm going to do inside my body tag, I'm going to create a div which is going to be my container. So the first time you looked at what I was building, notice that this image, right, is larger than the other images. And apart from that, notice that everything is aligned on its own in its own column. So how did I get to do this? First of all, I created an outer div, then I created inner divs. So the inner divs, this outer div is for the entire page, right? That entire section. Then the other divs are for, first of all, the larger image. I'm going to call it, the class I'm going to call it is, I'm going to call it larger image just because I want it to be descriptive for you all. And then for the smaller div, I'm going to call it, this is going to be called the smaller images. I'm going to call it the smaller images. And so then the outer container is going to be called container. Okay, so now I'm going to be showing you exactly what I'm doing as I'm building this. Now, this entire section is our container. Okay, this is the large image, while these are the smaller images. So within the smaller images, should I call that smaller images? I might change the naming and make it better and more descriptive later on. So let's continue. Right now, I'm going to be importing my images, right? So let's say that I have an image over here. I'm going to create my image tag, self-closing tag. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a source. I wanted to copy and paste the link from Cloudinary. Then I'm going to get it for you here. So this is the source, and then I'm going to add an alt tag to just describe what this is. So it's breakfast, right? Breakfast meal. I'm not going to be too descriptive, depending on the user, what the purpose of the restaurant is, right? Or the purpose of the website is for. You can be more descriptive with the alternative text. Now, I want to have 3 smaller images like I did over here. So how am I going to do this? I'm going to create smaller divs. Now, in a larger scale of things, you can actually use if I had these images, let's say from a database or something, I can use .map to just display all the images at once. But this is for like a smaller role, like a smaller website. So that's why I'm not going to go with something bigger, right? So that's why I'm not going to use .map or hire other functions. So right now, inside my div tag, I'm going to be using the same styling. Okay, so I'm going to have a styling for my smaller image, right? So smaller images are the whole images on the row, while the smaller image are the mini images that we're going to be using to that when it's clicked, it expands. So let's continue. Now, another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a self-closing image tag here. I'm going to have it on all the 3 rows. Then I'm going to have my source attribute. I'm going to have my source, which is going to also be links from Cloudinary. Let's continue. So basically copied and pasted that, but I want to get the actual links. Links. Okay, then I'm going to add my alt tag here. So this is dessert. And this is going to be the fish and vegetables. Fish, vegetables. Yes, I do like food. That's why I'm making a food website. Fish, vegetables. And this is going to be and I'm going to have another tag over here. Then after this, we'll go into styling the CSS real quick. And this is going to be called the restaurant owner. Let's say I'm building this for a restaurant. The restaurant owner. Now, after all these, I want to get into my styling, then we'll get into JavaScript. Now, inside our styling section, let's do this. So first thing, I'm going to style my container, which is going to contain all the other images inside a row. Oh, no, inside a column. There's a column, there's a row, right? So I'm going to say dot container, and this is how you style classes. Now, what I want to do is okay, so I'm going to be using something called Flexbox. I've been using Flexbox for a while now. So this is going to have the display. It's going to be a flex. Then I'm going to have my direction. So my flex direction is going to be a column. Then I'm also going to have, so first things, I want to have my gap, my margin, my max width, my padding. So I'm going to be explaining what all these things do. Now, the flex direction is in charge of determining what direction you want it to go, whether you want it to be a column or whether you want it to be a row. Now, when I say I want my width to be 1200 pixels, there's a reason for this number. Is because on most desktop most laptops, their size, especially the smaller one, is 1200 pixels. If you want to reduce it, you can use media queries. Then I'm going to add my padding which is going to be 20 pixels. I'm going to add my gap, which is the gap between my elements, which is going to be 10 px, and then my, yes, I'm going to add my margin. Now, give me 1 minute. Okay, you can still see it. Okay, so my margin, I'm going to say it's going to be auto. I don't want the top and bottom to have a margin, but left and right, I'm going to use the one that is normally used. Now, apart from that, we're going to have other CSS. So I have a larger image. I have a larger image. And for that larger image, the width is going to be 100 pixels. And so what I'm going to do, simply because of time, right? I'm going to paste my CSS, but then you can go back and look into it so that you understand why I did what I did. But after I paste it, I'm going to explain it just because of time, because I want to get into explaining the documents, the document object model, and how I used it to incorporate JavaScript. So I'm just going to copy it all and paste it over here. Then I'll tell you why some specific things are very important. Now, I mentioned how I mentioned I use flex, right? It's very important when you're using flex because, for example, my smaller images, right? When I use display flex, justify content helps me space my items in between. So add spaces between each item. I can determine the gap, how large I want it to be, how small I want it to be. Another thing too is a another thing too, when I hover over each item, I reduce the opacity so that people know that okay, I'm actually clicking on something. Then let me see. Those were the major things that I did. I'm going to post this on my GitHub so you can have access to it. Now, let's continue. So when it came to my JavaScript, the first thing I did was I created a script tag within it. And then the next thing that I did was, give me 1 minute. Okay, so I actually understood it. So I'm going to show you how I looked through that. So let me share my screen again. Okay, so this is the benefit of using cursor now. I made a mistake over here. So I assigned the new SRC, which is meant to be the SRC. Now, so what is this actually doing? And I got that when I checked on cursor, right? It spotted the error for me, which is why one reason I really like cursor, because it's good at that. Um, so the problem was when I look at this .src, right? It's taking this and it's assigning it to a new one, right? It's assigning the image to the image of the styling of the larger image. So this is actually really, really nice discovering this. But yes, so that's how I made it work with the help of Cursor. Thank you, Cursor AI. So yes, now our page is working fine. So that's how I incorporated the document object model. And if you want to learn more about it, you can actually learn about it together. I studied this a while back, but I believe studying it again is always helpful just to remember things, especially when it comes to styling. So we did this is W3 Schools, a website I usually use when I want to learn more. So when the website is loaded, like I said, we have the document object model of the page. This is how it looks. So we have the document, then we have the root element. So this is actually, so when I ran that asterisk, right? When I ran the exclamation point, and I kept it there, and it generated this for me. This is just a tree version of how it actually looks. So we have the entire document, and then we have our HTML tags specifying what language we're using. We have our head tags and everything. I encourage you to look through this too if you're still understanding things, getting better, getting improving. The reason I'll say this is it's good to understand what your code is doing. Even if like there are a lot of resources out online, it's still good to have a fundamental understanding of things. So thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you later. Bye.